I met them in a place that smelled like paper and warm coffee, a small bookstore with a quiet corner where the light was soft, the kind of light that makes you feel safe enough to breathe a little deeper, even if you don't know why. That day, I wasn't looking for love. I wasn't even looking for hope. I was looking for something simple, a place to sit, a story that could hold my mind gently, because my own thoughts had been too loud lately. A few weeks before, my relationship ended, not with a big fight, not with a clear reason, but with a slow, confusing sadness, like a song fading out while you still want to hear the last line. And after it ended, I kept doing normal things, going to work, answering messages, smiling at the right moments, but inside I felt like a room after guests leave. Quiet, in a way that feels empty instead of peaceful. So I went to the bookstore on a rainy afternoon, wearing a jacket that still smelled a little like the outside air, and I told myself I would buy one book, go home, and disappear into it for the rest of the day. I walked between the shelves slowly. I touched the spines of books like they were small doors. Some titles sounded too serious, some sounded too happy. I needed something in the middle, something kind. I found a novel on a lower shelf, and when I pulled it out, a small piece of paper fell onto the floor. It was a sticky note, pale yellow, with neat handwriting on it. It said, "This chapter feels like a warm blanket." That was all. No name, no date, no extra explanation. I stood there holding the book and the note, and for a second I felt something soften in my chest, because it was such a simple human thing to do, to leave a tiny kind sentence in the world and walk away. I looked around, half expecting to see someone watching, but the aisle was empty. Only the sound of rain tapping the window, and the low music from the cafe area, and the quiet way bookstores always tell you to slow down. I put the sticky note back inside the book, right where I found it, like returning a small secret. Then I bought the book and a cup of tea, because tea felt gentle, and I sat in the corner near the window. When I opened the book, I found another note a few pages in. This one said, "If you're reading this on a hard day, I hope your day gets softer soon." The handwriting was the same. Neat, calm, almost careful, like the person didn't want to take up too much space, but still wanted to be there. I didn't know why, but my eyes stung a little. Not big tears, just that light, sudden feeling, like your heart is surprised to be seen. I read the book slowly, and every few chapters there was another note. Some were funny, some were quiet. One said, "This part made me put the book down and stare at the ceiling." Another said, "Remember to breathe." Another said, "You don't have to earn rest." By the time I finished half the book, the rain outside had turned into a soft mist, and my tea was almost cold, and my mind, for the first time in weeks, felt less sharp, less angry, less tired. Before I left, I did something I hadn't planned to do. I took a sticky note from the counter near the cafe and I wrote, "Thank you for the notes. They helped more than you think." I didn't sign my name either. I just placed it inside the book, careful and quiet, like I was placing a small candle in a dark room. I went home that evening feeling lighter in a way I couldn't explain. The breakup was still real. The sadness was still there. But something had changed. It was like I had been walking alone in a storm, and suddenly I saw a porch light somewhere. Not telling me to hurry, just telling me the world still had warmth. A few days later, I went back to the bookstore. I told myself it was for the coffee. I told myself it was for the quiet. But really, I think I wanted to know if the notes would still be there, if the invisible kindness was a one-time thing or something steady. I found the same book on the shelf and I opened it to the place where I left my note. My sticky note was gone. In its place was a new one. It said, "You're welcome. I'm glad you're here." And under that, in smaller writing, "Do you like the window seat too?" I stared at the words for a long time. My first thought was, "This is silly." My second thought was, "This is sweet." My third thought was, "I want to answer." So I wrote back, "Yes, the rain looks softer from there." Then I added, "I come here when my head is loud," and I placed the note in the same spot. That week I came back again, and again. Not every day, but often enough that the staff started to recognize my face. The cafe worker would smile and ask, "Tea today?" And I would nod, and it felt nice, like a small routine that didn't ask too much from me. Each time I visited, there were new notes, and I left new notes too. We never used our names at first. It was safer that way. We talked through paper like two people leaving soft footprints in snow. They wrote about small things. The bread here is better in the morning. I like the way this place smells after rain. I'm trying to be kinder to myself. I wrote back with small truths. I'm learning how to be alone again. I miss someone, but I'm also tired of missing them. I'm proud of myself for showing up. One afternoon, I arrived and found a note that said, "If you want, I'll be here at 4, by the window, with a book and no expectations. No pressure, no big words, just an open door." My hands were a little shaky when I read it, not because it was scary, because it was gentle, and gentle can feel scary when you've been hurt. At 3:55, I bought tea. I sat down. I tried to read, but my eyes kept jumping to the door. The rain had stopped, and the street outside looked clean, like the city had washed its face. At 4:02, someone walked in, shaking a few drops of water from their umbrella, looking around like they were trying not to disturb the air. They held a book close to their chest. They had a simple face, kind eyes, and a tired softness that I recognized, the look of someone who has been carrying things quietly. They saw me, then the window seat, then the book in my hands, and they smiled a small, unsure smile, like asking permission without words. I smiled back, and that was the first time we spoke out loud. "Hi," they said softly. "Hi," I said, and my voice sounded more human than I expected. They sat across from me, leaving space between us, the way you do when you respect someone's healing. For a moment, we just looked at our books and our cups, and the silence wasn't awkward. It was clean. "I didn't think you'd come," they said. "I almost didn't," I answered, honest. Then I added, "But I wanted to." They nodded like they understood. "Me too," they said. We talked slowly, not about big dreams, not about the past in detail, just small, real things. They told me they wrote notes because they used to feel invisible, and leaving words in books felt like a safe way to reach people without demanding anything back. I told them I read the notes on a hard day, and it felt like someone had put a hand on my shoulder, not to pull me, just to remind me I was not alone. When we laughed, it was quiet, like we were careful with happiness. When we paused, the pauses felt kind, not empty. Every time I felt my old fear rise, the fear that love always ends, they didn't push, they didn't rush, they simply stayed present like a calm lamp on a late night. Before we left, they looked at me and said, "Can I tell you something simple?" I said, "Okay." They said, "You don't have to be impressive with me, you can be real." And I don't know why, but that sentence hit me deeper than any dramatic promise, because it didn't sound like a movie. It sounded like a life, a quiet life, a safe life. Outside, the air was cool. The streetlights were turning on. People were walking home with bags and tired faces, and I felt, for the first time in a long time, that I could be one of them without feeling broken. We didn't hold hands that night. We didn't make big plans. We just walked to the corner together, then stopped. They asked, "Same place next week?" I answered, "Yes, same window." And when I walked home alone, I noticed something small but true. My sadness was still there, but it didn't own the whole room anymore. It had become one part of the room. And in the room there was also tea and paper and rain and a person who spoke gently, and a version of me that could believe, just a little, that love can be soft and that soft love can help you heal without tearing you open again.